Hezbollah's most trusted leader has died. Israel has succeeded in assassinating him again. Since the large-scale explosion of the Page in Lebanon, Israel has begun to fully promote the war plan against Lebanon, has targeted the assassination of senior members of Hezbollah in Lebanon. At the end of September, after the airstrike killed Hezbollah leader Nasrallah, less than a month after the new Hezbollah leader Safdin took office, there was news that Israel had succeeded in assassinating him again. In this situation, where the war has already started, Hezbollah may face a state of being leaderless. According to reports from the US media, CNN and Al Jazeera, Israel exposed the news that they had killed Hezbollah new leader Hashim Sabedin a few days ago, which caused a shock in international public opinion. Recently, Hezbollah in Lebanon finally confirmed to the public that Sabedin was confirmed dead and died in Israeli airstrike. He was next to him at the time. There is also a senior commander, Pearl Harbor, and head of Pearl Harbor's communications department, Rashid Zakar. In fact, it was about the same time as this news. There was also news about affiliated footprints of Pearl Harbor. Naim Qassem, announced his resignation. An important senior figure who had worked for 33 years announced that he had fled. This news made the outside world generally doubt that this resignation statement would severely hit the morale of resistance on Hezbollah front. Even more doubted what role Qasim played in Israel's multiple assassination attempts. It is worth noting that after the former leader Nasrallah was killed, there were a total of 5 successors within Hezbollah. But in a month, except for Qasim, who had resigned and fled, the rest had all been assassinated. In other words, Hezbollah, which is currently in a state of war, is already facing a state of being leaderless, no leader. Israel has used unscrupulous and crazy assassinations to create a situation where whoever comes to power will die. It is conceivable that the internal pressure of Hezbollah will be really great. Intuitively speaking, Israel's successive assassinations and frequent beheading operations may indicate that there are some problems within Hezbollah. There may even be more than 1 or 2 internal ghosts. This has also exposed Hezbollah's organizational construction to a certain extent, which has exposed the high-level officials to the enemy's vision. In addition, according to Chinese, this kind of Israeli intelligence is indeed amazing. So, you can refer to the situation in Hamas side. This was exposed to no longer use any electronic. This one, they use highly equipments. The United States called for an end to the conflict while sending troops to reinforce. China, which received the request for help, has made real efforts to improve the situation. After the killing of Hamas leader, the armed forces did not lose their combat effectiveness, but instead dealt a heavy blow to the Israel Defense Forces in Gaza Strip. An Israeli military spokesman confirmed that Colonel Dexa, the commander of 401 Brigade in the northern region of Gaza Strip, was killed by an explosive device after leaving the tank. Another battalion commander was also seriously injured in the incident. Israel has been fighting in Gaza Strip for more than a year. In the past, Netanyahu made it clear that he wanted to completely destroy Hamas armed forces through continuous and fierce military operations, and Israel's costly military operations did hit Hamas hard. Some American media believe that as of August this year, Israel has killed 17,000 Hamas armed personnel. The core military organization of Hamas, the Qassam brigades, may only have 2 relatively complete battalions left, but the problem is that for an Hamas organizations, even if the commander is killed, the troops suffer serious losses. They still have strong vitality and can quickly recruit personnel to restore their strength. At present, Israel has a superficial military advantage in the battle in Gaza Strip. The Hamas armed forces do not have the ability to launch military operations like last October. But the Hamas armed forces are believed to still have 5,000 to 10,000 experienced veterans. These personnel and newly recruited personnel from infantry squads, one by one, to continue to deal with Israel in a way of breaking up the whole into pieces. Although this guerrilla warfare model cannot directly defeat Israel, Israel cannot eradicate Hamas armed forces. So, it can only continue to fight. At least for now, Hamas is far from being exhausted. It is worth noting that after the new person was killed, US President Biden called on Israel to consider ceasefire negotiations as soon as possible. Washington knows very well that Israel cannot achieve the goal of completely eliminating Hamas. If a ceasefire is reached as soon as possible, the costly military operations will end. But Israel is, after all, a core ally of United States, and Biden dare not openly turn against Israel, no matter how dissatisfied he is. The third, the air defense system provided by the United States to Israel has been put in place recently, giving Israeli army force confidence to continue fighting. From this perspective, the United States is calling for peace, but it actually does is not to promote peace. In sharp contrast to the United States, on October 21st, in response to Lebanese government's request for help, China called for 3,601 boxes of emergency humanitarian medical relief supplies to be airlifted from Shanghai to Beirut, which will help ease the tense humanitarian relief pressure in local area. Compare with United States, which says one thing and does another thing. China is actually doing things to help alleviate the local humanitarian crisis in Lebanon. Since the outbreak of Israeli-Palestine conflict in October last year, China has been persuading peace, promoting talks, making appeals, fulfilling responsibilities of responsible major country. But the person who tied the bell must untie it. When will United States correct its extremely partial attitude to Israel and force Israel to stop it by cutting off military aid? It's The Middle East tension continues, and the Hamas armed forces have once again dealt a heavy blow to Israel defense forces. Now, the third anti-missile system is in place, with the protection provided by United States. Does it mean that Israeli retaliatory actions against Iran may be launched soon? Chinese don't think that Israel has not taken any action against Iran for 3 weeks because it is waiting for the deployment of third system. On the other hand, the deployment of third system does not mean that Israel will immediately attack against Iran. It is not a condition for active defense. Chinese think the deployment of third system is more of a gesture for United States to protect Israel, or to a certain extent, a compensation for Israel's listening to the advice of United States not attacking nuclear facilities. It is not used in actual combat because everyone knows that Israel has a missile defense system. For example, a wrong night has a short distance of more than 10 kilometers. For more than 10 kilometers to 10, just 10 kilometers, it has Dr. David's anti-missile system. More than 100 kilometers, it has Chensha anti-missile system. Now, the deployment of THAAD, of course, has wider range, more than 200 kilometers, which is actually icing on the cake, not very necessary. The Chinese they think that for Israel's missile defense, the United States has deployed bases in Middle East and its allies, just like one that helped Israel defend in April this year. So THAAD is not necessary. So it does not mean that Israel will be in such a situation if THAAD is deployed. On October 25th of this year, the US Central Command announced an important military deployment through a social media platform. Several F-16 fighters belonging to the 480th Fighter Squadron of US Air Force have been deployed from Germany and other countries, successfully arrived at US area of responsibility in the Middle East. This action marks the US military's strengthening of its strategic presence in the Middle East. The F-16 is the single-engine multi-purpose fighter made in the United States, known for its high flexibility and combat capability. The arrival of this batch of fighters not only strengthens the US military air power in the region, but may also be response to changes in the regional security situation. Although the specific mission details have not yet been made public, it can be speculated that these aircraft will be involved in various surveillance and potential security missions. After the incidents, some netizens said that this is the case again. The United States always interferes in the internal affairs of other countries under the banner of maintaining security. Why does F-16 fly to Middle East? Is it trying to provoke new conflicts again? This is not a solution to the problem at all. It will only make the situation more tense. Some netizens in China also think that it is really ironic that while talking about world peace on one hand, the troops are constantly increasing on the other hand. Can the Middle East bring stability by force? This practice is simply adding fuel to the fire without considering the feelings of local people at all. The United States should stop this endless military expansion. So does the United States violate the international law by sending military aircraft to the Middle East? Really? According to the United Nations Charter and relevant international law rules, countries have the right to self-defense, can station troops or conduct military activities with the consent of other countries. If this dispatch is implemented after consultation with relevant countries it does not constitute a violation of the law. On the contrary, if you enter the airspace or territory of another country without permission, you may violate international law. In addition, does such military deployment requires approval of United Nations Security Council? Generally speaking, unless it involves large-scale armed intervention or under specific conditions such as peacekeeping operations, which require authorization by the Security Council. Routine small-scale troop movements do not require a special permission from United Nations Security Council. However, any country should follow the basic principles of international relations, respect sovereignty, avoid exacerbating regional tensions when taking military action. According to New York Times on 24th, as tensions rise over possible retaliatory attack by Israel, Iran has ordered its armed forces to prepare for war with Israel. Despite this, Iran still hopes to avoid a full-scale war as much as possible. According to the report, 4 anonymous Iranian officials revealed in a telephone interview with Iran's supreme leader Khamenei has instructed the military to formulate multiple plans to deal with Israeli attacks, saying that Iran will decide how to counteract based on the severity of the Israeli attack. If the attack causes massive destruction, casualties, Iran will take countermeasures. If Israel's targets are limited to military facilities and some weapons depots, Iran is likely to do nothing. In addition, the New York Times quoted Iranian officials as saying that Khamenei has clearly instructed that Iran will respond resolutely if Israel launches an attack on Iran's oil energy infrastructure or nuclear facilities or assassinates senior Iranian officials. According to Iranian officials, potential response measures include launching up to 1,000 ballistic missiles at Israel, strengthening the attacks of its proxy organizations in the region, interfering with global energy supplies, and affecting shipping through the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz. Since Iran launched a large-scale ballistic missile attack on Israel earlier this month, Israel has vowed to retaliate many times. According to a report by Washington Post on 14th, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had informed US President Biden that Israel planned to strike Iran's military infrastructure, not its nuclear or oil facilities. However, Israeli Prime Minister's office later stated on social media that although Israel would consider the opinions of the United States, the final decision would be based on national interests. At the same time, Iran has repeatedly stated that it is ready to respond to possible attacks by Israel and will respond strongly if necessary. On 17th, Hossein Salami, commander of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran, warned that if Israel takes aggressive actions, Iran will give Israel a painful counterattack. In addition, in the diplomatic field, Iran is actively seeking the support of regional countries to consolidate its. A number of strong explosions were heard in the Iranian capital Tehran in the early hours of Saturday, the state-run IRIB TV reported. The situation at Imam Khomeini International Airport, Mehrabad International Airport, is normal, the report said. According to IRIB TV, the source of the blast has not yet been identified and seemed to have originated in the suburbs of Tehran. The TV quoted security sources as saying that some of the explosions pertained to the activities of air defense systems deployed near the capital. Sources added that investigations have been launched to identify the source of the explosions, according to the report. The semi-official Tasnim news agency reported that explosions were heard west of Tehran, yet the situation was normal in the capital. Israel confirmed that it had launched precise strike on military targets in Iran early Saturday morning, local time. The Israel Defense Forces said the strikes were in response to months of continuous attacks from Iran. On October 1st, Iran fired approximately 180 missiles at Israeli targets. Tehran said the strikes were retaliation for assassinations of several leaders of regional resistance groups, among other things. In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran had made a grave mistake and vowed retaliation. Iran closed its airspace, quickly causing an uproar in the international community. As an important country in the Middle East, Iran's move will undoubtedly further aggravate the tension in the region. What are the possibilities? Number one, the background of Iran's closure of airspace. It is reported that the reason why Iran announced the closure of airspace was Israel's attack on Iranian military targets. Israel claimed that the attack was in response to Iran's recent attack on Israel. After the attack, multiple explosions were heard near Tehran, the capital of Iran. Iran's air defense system responded quickly. Iran's closure of its airspace is seen as a response and a preventive measure to Israel's attack. Second, the impact of Iran's closure of airspace is impact on international aviation. Iran's closure of its airspace will have certain impact on international aviation. Since Iran is located in the Middle East and is an important aviation hub connecting Asia, Europe, Africa, the closure of its airspace will cause some international flights to deter or cancel, which will not only increase the operating costs of airlines but may also affect passengers' travel plans. Impact on the situation in the Middle East. Iran's closure of airspace will undoubtedly further aggravate tensions in the Middle East. The hostile relationship between Israel and Iran has lasted for many years, and the conflicts and the frictions between the two sides have occurred from time to time. Iran's closure of its airspace this time will be seen as a tough response to Israel, which may trigger further countermeasures from Israel. At the same time, Iran's move may also cause concerns, uneasiness in other Middle East countries, leading to further escalation of the situation in the entire Middle East. In terms of geopolitical impact, Iran's closure of airspace will also have a certain impact on geopolitics. As an important country in the Middle East, Iran's actions have always attracted international attention. This closure of its airspace will be seen as a tough stance taken by Iran in regional affairs. It may trigger reactions and responses from other countries. In addition, Iran's move may also affect its image and status in the international community, further exacerbating tensions between it and Western countries. The third one, the deep reasons for Iran's closure of its airspace is Iran's closure of its airspace is not an impulsive move but has deep reasons. On one hand, Iran's move is to respond to Israel's attacks and threats and protect its own security. On the other hand, Iran also attempts to show its tough stance and determination to the international community through this move to maintain its status and influence in the Middle East. In addition, Iran may also take this opportunity to show its determination and ability to maintain national security to its people at home so as to enhance the people's trust and support for the government. Further, further in the future, Iran's closure of airspace will bring many uncertainties and challenges to the Middle East. On the one hand, the conflicts and frictions between the two sides may further escalate, leading to a situation out of control. On the other hand, the international community may also increase its attention and intervention in the Middle East to try to ease the tension between the two sides. However, no matter how a situation develops in the future, the hostile relationship between Iran and Israel is difficult to be resolved in the short term. Therefore, the two sides need to seek a peaceful solution through dialogue and consultation to avoid further escalation and a deterioration of the situation. In conclusion, Iran's announcement of closure of its airspace has undoubtedly brought new tensions and challenges to the Middle East. However, only through dialogue and consultation can find fundamental way to solve the problem. All the people hope that Iran and Israel can remain calm and resolve differences and contradictions through dialogue and consultation, and contribute to peace and stability in the Middle East. At the same time, all the people also call all on the international community to increase its attention and intervention in the Middle East and push the two sides towards a peaceful solution. After 3 rounds of strike, Israel announced that its retaliation had ended successfully. Why did it stop there? Does the United States dare to fully support Israel? What will China face? A few days ago, after 3 rounds of strike, Israel officially announced that retaliation had ended successfully. But what we are going to say today is that Israel won face this time but lost the substance. The fatigue of Middle East bully had been completely revealed. First of all, very critical question: why can Israel only stop there? 2 major reasons. First, Israel and Iran are too far apart. Second, United States has been powerless. These 2 points are actually easy for us to understand. Without the help of 12 American Israel refueling aircraft, it is hard to say whether Israel can rely on fighter jets to complete these 3 rounds of attacks. Unless the United States is desperate and uses all its strength to help Israel attack Iran. But do Americans have this determination? No. And even if somebody came to power, he or she would not dare to do so. Even if someone insisted a full scale of war broke out in the Middle East, then the United States would face two very difficult problems. One is how to solve the problem of rising domestic inflation in the United States due to the surge in oil prices. Another question is how United States will end the war after it starts. Will it help Israel to completely cripple Iran? Is it completely unrealistic? Iran is such a large country, and United States and China want to completely cripple it, and the power they need to mobilize must be beyond people's imagination. But the key is whether the United States has the capital to launch a large-scale war again. Let's talk about a very realistic situation. The United States has long bet on Russia-Ukrainian conflict or surrounding areas, East Asia. So why should it huddle with its own brothers for warmth? Isn't the reason for huddling together because it's not good enough, needs external forces? Taking a step back, if Trump really makes the United States fall into a vortex of Middle East for Israel for taking office, people guess, netizens in China, Russia, netizens guess in China and Russia, they will be the first to applaud the leader. After all, the fatigue shown by United States now is a fatigue of Israel. The two are integrated. They all suffer together. Let's get back to the topic. I see that many netizens think that although Israel and Iran fight each other, no one dares to make a big fuss. In fact, they are just acting, give an explanation to other peoples. But one thing that no one can ignore is that this drama has become bigger and bigger, showing signs of getting out of control. It's like two people fighting. Originally, you punch, I kick, but neither dares to kill because of constraints of rules. As a result, one of them got angry, showed its weapon desperately. So, has the nature of this situation changed completely? As Mishweli said, war starts when you want it, but it doesn't end when you are happy. So Israel and Iran have made things so bad that no one can stop, and can boldly judge that Israel will lose in the end. But it's simple truth. In the past so many years, the reason why the United States has been able to suppress and sanction Iran unscrupulously is because it has received the support of a number of Arab countries. What historical hatred, what religious conflicts, these are all superficial. The real reason is that they are willing to watch Iran fall, not compete with them for oil trading. Now, with China's mediation and persuasion, the rise of new energy industry, Iran has begun to slowly accepted by Arab family. The rise and fall of support is another manifestation of Israel fatigue. If the United States does not save Israel, it will face a huge crisis. Finally, we can only say that for China, the right time, right place, right people have already aroused a huge national destiny that will rush towards China. Let us see. What is the Chinese JY-10 command system that Iran purchased? Many people may not be able to tell the difference between the functions. In the past 2 days, this JY-10 command system exported by China Electronic Technology Group Corporation to Iran has become popular on the internet. Many media said Iran has achieved crushing over Israel with this system, intercepted more than 90 Israeli missiles. This JY-10 command system was publicly displayed in 2017. It's not a new secret, but it has only attracted attention this time. Then let's take a look at what this kind of command system is. Let's go back to the past. That is the era when there was no such system. At that time, the air threat was first based on long-range alert on the ground. After the radar scanned the sky and found the target, it notified the command post by voice through the phone to report the target batch, the number of targets, the trajectory and the parameters of the target. After the command post received the report from the front, it had to determine the route of the target and then command the air defense missiles along the route by phone. But the anti-aircraft artillery position entered combat readiness state, then decided who would intercept which position, when to open the radar for scanning and tracking. Then the command center had to coordinate and distribute firework according to the air situation at any time. At that time, the radars of different air defense positions could only provide services for the firepower of their own positions. So they were still fighting independently under unified command. However, if the data obtained by different radars can be shared and automatically commanded, and information can be automatically redistributed among various positions, then each position can perform tasks more accurately and in a more coordinated manner. Iran's problem is very troublesome. There are still a large number of old American-made Hawk or British air defense missiles in the air defense missiles, which are products of 60 years ago. There are also a batch of S-200 long-range air defense missile left by Soviet Union, British Lightship short-range or defense missiles, S-300 and S-400 air defense missile, purchased later. These missile systems are from different times and different production countries. There is no unified data to format and no data link that can share information. Of course, it's impossible to achieve information sharing interoperably and mutual command. Therefore, Iran introduced such a command system, which is to use GY to unify the process the air situation information obtained by various radars within a radius of 800 kilometers, so that trajectory and the flight track of 100 aircraft can be continuously drawn. Then, with its high mobility, high reliability, high automation, it is the core of Iran's air defense command system, which integrates the data of various radars and positions of different systems, different data standards, and different interfaces. This shows that China's scientific research and engineering personnel can realize this information cross-system, cross-connection, which can enable the system to make the most accurate response in the shortest time. In other words, in the future, if we seize the Patriot air defense missiles on the other side, we can also incorporate it into our air defense command system, change its name to AHENG. It should be noted here that the role GY10 is the role of brain, not the role of eyes and hands. It improves the command efficiency, but it does not improve the radar and missile capabilities of various positions. If we face stealth target, the radar in front does not detect this target. There is no data to provide JY10. If JY10 cannot get the data, then no matter how good a woman is or how she is cooked without rice, for example, if a ballistic missile has a relatively high terminal speed which exceeds the interception capability of S-300, then no matter how accurate and efficient response of GY10 is, it's impossible to change the performance of air defense missile system. But it still can't be stopped. Faced with such congenital deficiency, Chinese JY10 is powerless. And it should be noted that in China, JY10 is considered a relatively low-end export product. It uses a large number of commercial parts, and People's Liberation Army does not look down on such equipment. China Electronics Technology Group Corporation also said that it can be used as a backup command system, but in Iran it has a higher status, has become the core of Iran's command system. It can be seen that Iran did not have the ability to buy Chinese high-end products at the time. As for how the interception power of more than 90% came from, some people calculated it. They counted the explosion point where the anti-aircraft and shells of self-destructed and exploded in air as interception. They regarded the number of anti-aircraft shells launched by Iran as the number of Israeli missiles hit. In addition, they said when CCTV was broadcasting live, they did not see Israeli missiles hitting the ground. So the saying that 90% or 99% of them were intercepted came from this. Here is little knowledge CCTV reporters were broadcasting live in the city of Tehran. According to CCTV subsequent report, Israeli missiles hit Iran missiles positioned dozens of kilometers outside the city of Tehran. They were weapons factories that did not hit the city of Tehran. So there was no Israeli missile above that CCTV reporters had at that time. So it would be weird to film the missile landing. The explosions in the air during the live broadcast were all from anti-aircraft shells, Iranian anti-aircraft missiles that self-destructed at certain height. That is, when there was no target, the Iranian radar system did not find the target. The entire system failed. They were blindly shooting at the air. And if the missile was really shot down in front of CCTV, the missile wreckage would definitely fall to the ground and may cause some explosions. So the wreckage was discovered and caused an explosion on the ground that would be evidence for shooting down. There is no such picture in CCTV picture. In comparison, Russia is still very experienced because Russian side often says that they successfully intercepted the missile. It was the wreckage of missile that destroyed the buildings aircraft on ground of. In addition, there is another explanation. If anti-aircraft shell or anti-aircraft missile, even if it did not hit the target, must explode and self-destruct at a certain height. Why? Because otherwise it would fall down. What should it do if the children, flowers, plant explode? This is very simple common sense. If you think that you have intercepted the enemy's missiles, when you see an explosion, then you should take good look at the night of the January 15, 1991 in Baghdad and see how many dense bombing points were fired in the sky by Iraq's anti-aircraft artillery that night. If such bombing point is equivalent hitting US aircraft, then that night all US aircraft were destroyed. The war between Palestine and Israel has started again. Hamas attacked Israel and fired more than 5,000 rockets into Israel. When the two countries were fighting, right-wing countries joined in. Israel was beaten up again. At this critical moment, Israel rarely sent a signal to China, hoping that China could lend a hand. In this regard, China has expressed its attitude on Palestine-Israel issue. So, what is going on? What did Israel ask China for help? Let's continue watching this video. As we all know, as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine intensified, the powder keg of Middle East broke out again after 2 years. The conflict between Palestine and Israel was ignited again. Palestinian armed organization Hamas fired more than 5,000 rockets directly into Israel without any warning. In an instant, smoke rose, several buildings collapsed, and Israel suffered heavy losses. Although Israel has an advanced air defense system, has sounded the air defense alarm early, a large number of rockets still hit the target because the rockets were too dense. As one of the powerful countries in the Middle East, how could Israel bear such a cowardly attitude? It immediately sent several F-15 and F-16 fighters to the Kashan area in Palestine and carried out a large-scale airstrike on the area. Under the fierce exchange of fire between two sides, the two sides have temporarily suffered more than 1,600 casualties and more than 6,000 injuries. And this number is still rising as the war ferments. Of course, Israel is not so easy to mess with. Israel immediately issued a declaration of war to the Palestinian side, saying that it would immediately eliminate the Hamas and armed organization at all costs. Just as Israel, Palestine were tit for tat, Israel's neighbor Lebanon attacked Israel again, and Lebanon's Hezbollah also launched a large number of rockets into Israel. Later, Lebanon confessed the matter, saying that the reason for sneak attack on Israel was to show the outside world the unity between Hezbollah and Hamas. This statement is indeed a bit far-fetched. In fact, it is not difficult to see that Israel has caused great anger because of its arrogant behavior in Middle East for many years. In the early days of Israel's founding, Israel provoked the Fifth Middle East War, dispatched more than 100,000 people from the Navy, Army, and Air Force, launched a war against Lebanon, and eliminated the Palestine Liberation Organization. Soon after, Israel in soon after, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Palestine followed. Both organizations were established to resist Israel. Therefore, after the outbreak of Palestine-Israel conflict, Hezbollah immediately launched an offensive against Israel, which can also be seen to be retaliation for Hezbollah. Previous actions in Israel. Now, at the same time, anti-American pioneer Iran also stood up to support Palestine. Now, three countries that have participated in the beating of Israel have stood up. If multiple countries besiege Israel again, the Middle East will be in chaos. What the United States is most worried about is still going to happen. In fact, Israel has only one step to go get to where it is today, and they can blame themselves only, because now Israel's invasion of Palestine has reached a historic peak. As the saying goes, a lean camel is bigger than a horse. Where there is oppression, there is resistance. After the end of World War II, the United States, relying on the strong military strength, demanded that Palestine set aside an area to accommodate Israeli refugees. Later, United States and Western countries set their sights on oil in the Middle East and wanted to hold it firmly in their hands. It may also be that the Americans believed that Kissinger said, whoever controls the oil controls the world. Against this background, Palestine suffered a divided fate, divided into two, becoming Palestine and Israel. From then on, Israel became the claws of United States and Western countries in the Middle East, constantly provoking wars against neighboring countries, helping itself, the United States, expand its influence in the Middle East. Over time, most of Palestine's territory was illegally occupied by Israel, and Palestine launched a resistance. After seeing Israel suppressing Palestinian crazy firepower, the United States was ready to send an aircraft carrier battle group to Middle East to support Israel, and was ready to provide long-range firepower support to Israel at any time. As Israel's big brother, United States is very likely to provide weapons and ammunition assistance to Israel. And the reason why United States did this was because the United States helped Israel develop the world famous Iron Man. In this war, Taeshong air defense system was silent. It can automatically identify and intercept Hamas rockets in short time, effectively protecting Israel cities and people, and is known as Israel area. However, when Hamas recently launched more than 5,000 rockets at Israel, the air defense system, which is considered to be the most advanced in the world, had a serious failure, and it can even be said to have failed. This is why the United States intervened in this war. It is worth mentioning that even though the Russian Ukraine conflict has been going on for more than a year, the United States has never sent an aircraft carrier to support it, which shows that importance of Israel to United States. Just when everyone thought that Sixth Middle East War was about to break out, Israel actually sent a signal for help to China. The Israeli embassy in China said China is good friend of Israel, hopes China will condemn the behavior of Palestine. It should be noted that due to game between China and United States, the relationship between China and Israel is not good. In response to this one, the spokesperson of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Chinese nation also responded, stating China's attitude and position on Palestine-Israel conflict. Whether it is the Palestine or Israel conflict or Russian-Ukraine conflict, Chinese remain neutral, will not provide assistance to any party. China is a common friend of Israel and Palestine. Chinese sincerely hope to see Palestine and Israel coexist peacefully. At the same time, Chinese also call on relevant countries to exercise restraint and calm. In order to prevent the situation from escalating, both sides should stop the war as soon as possible. Chinese all know that wherever there is a war, there are Americans. The biggest initiator of this war is also inseparable from United States, because United States not only did not stop Israel occupation of Palestinian territory, but also acquiesced not long ago, since China successfully adjusted the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The United States has been trying to regain its place in Middle East and forcibly promote Saudi Arabia and Israel to shake hands and make peace. Once Shai truly reconciles, the Palestinians will never have a chance to make breakthrough. Because Saudi Arabia is one of the main force supporting Palestine, the current situation has no way out for Palestine, and it can only rely on its own desperate struggle. However, no matter what, Chinese hope that the conflict will end soon and not involve more civilians, ordinary people. So, what do you think of this? If you like the video,
after watching this video, don't forget to give it thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we post new content. Your support means a lot and helps our team create more videos like this. Thanks for watching.